actually going to be worse. I had a junior that came down from L.A. He said, I've never hit a draw in my life. He said, I've got to figure out a way to hit a draw. He's a good, strong, athletic kid. I can't hit a draw. His hands were like that. I said, you're never going to hit a draw. As strong as you are, if you ever hit a draw, it's just going into the ground. So I put his grip weak, and he said, well, I'll never hook a snare. So give me a chance, and within 15 minutes, he was hitting a draw. And every time, by the end of the hour, he was drawing almost every shot. So he was talented to do the right thing. Because I think it's undertaught with too many professionals. I think it's got to be a high priority. Okay? So, anybody have any questions on that? No questions? Do I have agreement? Okay? Well, it's basically, if you just look at Hogan's 5 fundamentals, in my book, I've got some pictures of it that are showing it, but it's basically, it's right through the line, right here, roughly 2.5 knuckles, left hand, 3 knuckles, depending on your person, your anatomical build, thumb just to the right of center. Now, if somebody has played, let's say David Duvall came to me when he was playing really well, and he had a strong right grip. Now we're dealing with a different entity. Am I going to change that? Because he's learned how to play awfully good golf and hit cuts. If you have a strong right-hand grip and a strong left-hand grip, what's the predominant shot shape of a good player that has that grip? A fade or a draw? Fade. What's the predominant shot shape of people with a weak grip? Draws. Makes no sense. So when I'm talking about my general diameter, it's three knuckles, left hand, pad on top, right hand and the fingers. These pointing pretty much right forward. Nothing new. It's just the same old fundamentals that are out road. I do in the ladies. Ladies definitely have stronger grips than the men. I don't know if I notice them getting stronger. They're not very many weak grips anymore. You might have a point there. I think in today's game, it's such an advantage to be a little stronger in the grip. Another one of Harvey Pennick's lines about the grip, he said, strong grip, strong body. What's that mean? If you have a strong grip, you can use your body awfully strong. He said, weak grip, weak body. You have to use more hands and arms to play your club. Okay? It's fairly personal, although I've had some interesting results messing around with that. I had a gentleman that could not get the club square at the top until I went 10 fingers. And it went automatically square every single time. It went dead shut with conventional overlap or interlock. As soon as I put in 10 finger, it went dead square. I was just shocked. I was like, why did that happen? But sometimes you mess around, you get lucky, and it made a tremendous difference in the game. He stayed 10 fingers for the rest of the time we went together. You guys have any questions? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what are some of your key thoughts on relaxation, which is such a big thing that someone trying to relax?
Well, when you find the answer to get somebody to relax them repetitively, just give me a buzz. And not what? Budge. And if they're not going to budge their eyes, they're not going to be able to do what? Rotate, unless you're a freak. I don't know how you can rotate without having some head movement. So I try to make sure my students understand the 3 movements of the head. And if we're going to rotate on the backswing, we got to have rotational. Depending on where the person starts is going to depend on whether they have lateral. I'm not much in favor of up and down. I want the head to stay pretty steady going back. But I don't mind a little bit of lateral if the player starts with their spine more where? Neutral. So if this person starts here, or let's say we took Jack Nicklaus who started like this, well, Nicklaus isn't going to move his head because his spine's already what? Pretty well set to the right. So most of your modern players are setting with the spine slightly to the right, as I said, and they're turning around that point, but their eyes are definitely shifting and rotating to the right. So the ball is going to be seen more out of your left eye. When David Ledbetter was first working with Nick Faldo had a reverse movement, and he tried to tell him to get out of the reverse pivot, but he couldn't stop doing it because his head would stay where? And so he just kept doing this.
Different dynamic than what you may be used to, having spent years in the industry and used up all of your fingers peeling tape over the years. But it creates an impulse buying situation out of what used to be not only a planned purchase for your customer, but a dreaded planned purchase. Nobody likes to plan to leave their clubs overnight and have to figure out how to get back in and pick them up. And it becomes a very convenient excuse to let your golf grips get really old and really slick. So I want to focus just for a couple of minutes here about, we've got a very simple air compressor here, probably a $75 purchase if you don't already have one at Home Depot. We're looking for 60 to 80 PSI to blow on a golf grip. And I can blow any golf grip you want on. What I can't do is guarantee that it's going to stay in place without tape. That's something that's very unique to these grips because of the compound and the way that they're manufactured. So this grip is right on the shaft. I'm going to take it off just for demonstration purposes. You can see there's a little bit of tape here to keep stuff out of the shaft. This is a standard size golf grip. If your customer is here, they want to try a grip, it's as simple as this to put on. That club is ready to play. No dry time, no waiting overnight. Now, I can take this grip, hand it to a student, allow them to hit some balls. If they don't like the style, they don't like the feel, or if the size is not correct, it's just as easy to blow it right back off and put on a different size. It's a great way to incorporate the grip into your fitting. It's a great way to incorporate the grip into new students as they come out. So in a nutshell, this portability and this technology allows us to get out at the point of play. It allows us with our demo teams like what Jonathan participates in here in California to get out on your range. So if you have an interest in having a demo day at your facility, we'd love to hear from you. If you have an interest in learning more, please let us know. And be glad to take any questions at this point.
What if it's an old grip with a bunch of tape underneath it?
Yeah, the question was if it's an old grip, what do you do then? We actually don't recommend you blow off other grips.
Right.
Yeah, other grips have a seam in them. And what happens is if it's been seated on there with tape and solvent for years, it's pretty well stuck. You hit it with that air, the seam's going to blow out. It doesn't feel good on your hands. It doesn't feel good on your ears. I've done it. So what we prefer to do, take a hooked blade in a knife, cut the grip, peel it off. A lot of times the tape is still in good enough shape where if you're in a hurry, you can blow a new grip right on over the tape. Did I hear another question? Yeah, so that's actually a really great advantage to this process. I like to keep some tape in my right hand, but I like the left hand to be a little bit thinner. Once I get that buildup done, I'm not having to redo that every time I change my grips. And I'm changing my grips weekly with experimental rubber compounds and things that I'm trying. So if I had to rebuild my tape every time, I would probably just skip it. But we use blue painter's tape, like masking tape. It's a lot more cost effective. It's a lot easier to work with than two-sided tape. And you don't need the tackiness to hold the tape in place. So once I get the tape the way I want it, I'm putting grips on and off over that tape as many times as you want. I don't have to redo it. Question?
Cost and how many different styles do you have?
We've been in the business for about 2 years. We got into the business making only black rubber grips. It was our belief that we couldn't offer colors other than black that would have the qualities that we wanted it to have. We just in September, after about a year and a half of R&D, launched 5 additional colors to black. So we now offer 5 styles of grips, 2 of them mid-size, in 6 different rubber colors. Our pricing, our wholesale pricing on black rubber starts at $2.49, and on color starts at $3.49, and comes down based on purchase quantity. Our goal is to be a great value to you and to your customer. We think that price point puts us right in the middle of the tier, and for the quality and the durability that we're offering, we think that is a great value. A typical grip, some of the most popular, most common grips out there, you read the specifications on their website, they actually recommend that you replace them 2 to 3 times a year. So if you take an equally priced product and put 3 on over the course of 12 months versus 1, that's a pretty good value. Question, sir? No? Same question. Yes, sir.
So much, and I guess it's part of the business. But my grandfather, who was invited to play in the first Masters, he played with Bobby Jones and Gene Ferris and stuff, and he was a good player. The only thing he ever told me was to do more things with my left hand. He put a golf ball under my armpit and said, "See ya." My dad is a PGA professional and a good player. All he ever told me was release the club and hit a high drop. Later, kid. It was simple and it was fun. And the perception of golf has become, in my opinion, very difficult. And I think that's why we're losing golfers. And Jim Hackenberg, a friend of mine who invented this, is also a PGA professional. And that's exactly why he invented it. Really is for himself to get better and to teach better. So this is really invented for teaching professionals. And it's it's used as a warm-up tool, and it's okay for that, that's fine, but that's not really why it was invented. It's really a swing trainer. And in a second, I'm going to go through how I would use it with Jeff. And I really believe in it 100%. That's why I got involved. And by the way, I took a lesson from Mr. Flick a couple months ago, and it's the only lesson I've ever taken where a teacher incorporated motion into what he was teaching me. I had to keep the motion going, right? It didn't just get here and then hit it. And by the way, it was a great lesson, and I know I told you what my goals were, and I slipped and fell at the section tournament, so I had to withdraw, but I tied for second in the local chapter stroke play, which is no big deal, but it's a big deal for me because basically for the last 6 years, we had pro 12 years, I just lost interest. It became too complicated. Well, I think I'd rather go ride my bike or go to a mall or go to a movie or anything. I don't want to go golfing. I'm tired of it because it became so complicated. And let me just go through quickly the way, and anyways, that meant a lot to me, and I thank you for that lesson. Because I know second place isn't a big deal and a chapter deal, but it is to me, not being competitive for so long. It felt good to be able to shoot something. But, anyways, I believe in these 2 products. There's the Orange Whip Trainer, which is basically the way I look at it from a golf pro. It gives you a hand and arm swing. It gives you great timing. The Orange Peel is kind of for your lower body. It trains you, it gets you loaded up on your right side, not too much legs, and what Mr. Flick was working out with me. I'm kind of hippie. Jeff, why don't you come out here and we'll go through some of the most common flaws I see since I've been teaching is, I call it the short arm disease. People suck the right arm in, or they go this way on the way down, or they pick it up. And, yeah, if you want to. And when I'm teaching, what I like about it is the same thing that Mr. Flick taught me is you keep a sense of motion. I think most golfers, including myself when I took lessons, and I'm not saying the people that I took lessons from taught me the wrong thing, They're all big teachers, and it was all great. But like I said, Mr. Flick is the only one to incorporate emotion. So when you teach most people, and let's say they're too far inside, or they stick their arm, you can suck their right arm in, whatever it is. So now you have them focused on this position. They lose the feel of the whole motion. Jeff here, say Jeff is the guy that slides his right arm in. Get him to swing the whip back and forth, and I'm going to say, focus on your right arm. How does it feel? You know, because a lot of times you have to teach people how to feel. You know, a lot of times they'll swing or do something and say, well, I don't feel anything. What am I supposed to feel? So as a golf instructor, you have to teach them how to feel. I'm going to tell Jeff to focus on the feeling he's getting with that, you know, a good takeaway, and extend the right arm. But at the same time, he's keeping the whole motion of the swing. You know, so my feeling is that teachers or students regress because they get caught into a position, they lose the sense of timing and motion, then they get out there and they say, well, forget about it, I'm not going to do this, and then they come back to you for the next lesson, and you know, basically you start all over again. They're doing the same thing they were the first time. Then the next lesson is the same in my experience. But that's what I like about the Orange Whip, is that it keeps the motion going. You know, let's say, here, take a club, let's say Jeff is teaching, I think, the motion with the hands and arms, but he's subconsciously feeling what the legs should do. He's loading up on his right side of the heel. He's getting into his left side. Takes a look at this. So, over the top again. Okay, he's pretty good over the top. I've seen a lot worse. But, so, now, if I was teaching Jeff, I'd get him on the orange peel, get this foot all the way up, past the line, this toe all the way behind the line, and now swing. What that stance is going to do is really promote the feeling of pulling and releasing. Okay, so I'll get him to focus. What do your arms feel like, especially on the first move down, or what does it feel like? And like Mr. Flick had me do, you can use it in slow motion. You don't have to swing it fast. You know, he had me doing slow motion drills, but keeping the motion. And that's the first lesson in my life. I've taken a lot of them, and I've given a lot, but it's the first lesson that I can relate to because it was a full motion. You know?
Our first shipment out of LAX, out of the port, had a car full of clubs and showed up at the LA event at Riverside. I walked out on the range, and this is the most amazing thing. Within 5 or 6 minutes, I had not only Charlie Hoffman, I had J.B. Holmes, I had, I don't know, 6 or 7 other players who came up to me, not only wanted one, but I took orders from not only those guys, but 6 or 7 other players, and before it was all over, I had given out 8 or 9 of these clubs on the range and had orders for over 20 within the first 2 weeks of the best players in the world. And not only chip with it around the greens, but more importantly, it's a fantastic warm-up club. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to, preach to PGA professionals. You guys know more about golf than most anybody, and especially me. But I will tell you that this is probably one of the most amazing products we've ever seen as far as the feedback we've got. I know you've used it. Can I see a show of hands? How many people have ever used the product? And let me see a show of hands. How many people aren't going to raise their hand no matter what I say? Real quickly, how many, can you give me just some quick feedback? Because I'd like to hear some feedback from, tell me exactly what's happening. Since you thing that most of the amateurs find, and this is the most feedback we've had from the product. Easily 80 or 90 testimonies from high handicappers who have started using this just chipping around the greens. Most of us will know, they're scared to death of their normal club, and then you put something this small in their hands, they're even more scared.
So what we found is starting them out chipping around the greens with this product gives them a little bit of confidence, but most importantly, when they transition back to their normal clubs, and anybody who's tried this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Who else has used it?
So the flight scope will start tracking it automatically. So it'll give us shot carry distance, which that one went 135 yards, smash factor, which is club head speed divided into ball speed, which is 1.41. Then you've got launch angle, vertical launch of 14.8, ball speed of 108.9 miles an hour, club head speed 77.3, spin rate of 3,100 or 120. And then we'll go through some of the club data. Right. So then you as the teacher, then you're going to go through and interpret the data. Because obviously the flight scope puts out, I think it's over 30 parameters. And obviously a lot of the students aren't going to understand what they all mean. So then you'll go through, and if you're getting your player that wants to hit a draw, you say, move it. So that one. Light on the hip turn.
But what I'm thinking of is position at club face at impact. Right. Side. What's that? So club head speed, face angle, and swing path. That's what we want to know as we.
My stick skills back to where they were when I was a kid. And it is similar to golf in the way that it's a stick and ball sport, and there's definitely some coordination and some skill that's required, just like golf. There's a lot of skill to hit that golf ball. That you need to get learned, I think, as a kid to have a head start to play this game when you become an adult. So about the time that I put this lacrosse stick down, in my early 20s or 18, is precisely that we want adults and young adults to start picking a golf club up so they can start playing this game for the rest of their life. I'm probably not going to play organized lacrosse ever again. I'll play in the back with my son, and in California it's really not that popular. There's some spots out there. Does anyone not know what this is? Never seen it? That's pretty good. That's awesome. It's made its way, and I know down in San Diego they're playing some really good lacrosse down there, and high school setup. She's a really good golfer, but there's something in her swing that always sort of comes back in, and I think you'll find that sometimes. There's always that thing that golf, you can't ever really fix something. It's always there, and that's why all these great players are always working on their golf swing. They're always hitting balls and trying to maintain things. And so one of the things we do in her golf swing is to maintain is to take your setup and make your backswing. Is that she, in her 4 shots, she has a tendency on her backswing to get her weight a little bit left and to tilt a little bit forward, and she gets her head moving in front of the golf ball on the way down. And working on getting her left shoulder with the idea of going down to her right knee and her weight into her right heel. So I was happy to hear Kip say right heel, that right little toe. I was a little worried about what we were working on, but that's what we work on right there. And that helps shallow out her swing plane a little bit. She has a tendency sometimes to come over a little bit. So that's one of the things that she works on, and it also helps bring her the flight of her driver up and helps her hit it a little bit straighter. So that if it's good and they get it, what we're doing, I'll say show me a shot that you really struggle with, and we'll just slide over and do it. But take your thumb. So start your backswing again. So this is something right here with the hip, and I think you're going to find this a lot when you work with, especially young women. Their hips really want to go this way. And that was one of the things that when we started 6 years ago, was one of the things we worked on, is her right hip would get outside her right ankle. And so that was one of our goals, is to fix that early on. And we did it by her getting set up. Take your set up. Take your backswing. And having her take her tailbone and point it at the target this way. Feel like she kept her weight on the inside of her foot or in her heel, bracing her right knee. And that's, I think, has helped a lot with her ball striking. That was probably the biggest thing, really. She also works out with a trainer, so she's gotten really good. And he made a change from some clubs recently, and so he choked down just a little bit more. Good. There you go. And so much in the heel, so. All right, looks great. Ethan, thank you. Great job, buddy. Good job. Awesome. All right, Sophia, come on up. So, Sophia, up right there. So that was one of the first thing, and honestly, she's starting to practice now. But you'll see that's something like Kip was saying. Grips will change. You know, they'll come back to the lesson and you go, "Wow, what's going on with the grip?" And you see it all the time. And so, I'm always kind of taking her grip between swings and getting it right where it needs to be, and then I'll test her and she'll make her grip, and that's one of the things we work on. But with Sophia, where we were when we started out was a little across the line at the top. She'd come in and she'd get real shallow, hit a little bit behind it, and then close the cup face. Now, if the ball was on a tee, she had some pretty good success, but
so it's impossible. The rules of physics have governed. So now, and we're getting close to that. So we're not going to be able to get increased coefficient of restitution, increased ball velocity just by new materials. People say, "Well, what happens if I get a new material?" I said, "Don't worry about it. You're not going to be able to do it." And so technology is coming to an end as far as the advances are concerned. Yeah, they're still tweaking. You know that the drivers that came out 2 or 3 years ago are just as good as the drivers that are coming out today. Yeah, they've got little fitting systems and they've got other things, but really the face technology and the improvements in advancing in technology are extremely small compared to what happened in the advances in 1995 on. So, shaft technology, well, yeah, it's getting a little bit better, but not that much. So where do we go? What's next? I believe, seriously believe, the next big innovation is in teaching, in education and instruction. And because we haven't tapped putting, it seems to be one of those areas that nobody says it's not really important, but anybody can putt. You know, you get some old guy there and he gets the ball and he hits the putt and goes in the hole. I don't need a putting lesson, I'm all right. And that's a problem because he putted so badly, but he got it in the hole. You can't get that same guy who drives the ball 300 yards accidentally. So you people want to drive the ball as far as they can. So we need to really focus on putting instruction because 40% or 45% of your score is on the putting green. 40% of your time is on the putting green. So, but how, as instructors, now I'm sure that everybody in here has taught somebody how to putt, somewhere. Either hold a putter or something. But how did you learn how to putt? Where did you learn how to putt? You've got to ask yourself that question.
Selling, remember I talked about that earlier? Chime in, what are you guys selling as teaching professionals? What are you selling? Oh, what else? I'm sorry? Entertainment. What else?
Happiness.
Happiness? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in? That too. That's what you're selling, guys. Think about it. What is an attorney selling? Expertise. Legal expertise. What do you guys? Expertise. Impulse. Legal expertise. Wow, it's a powerful words. We have to leverage that. So that is our product. When we look at what are we selling? We're selling a relationship. We're selling the experience. Talked about that earlier. What is that experience like for that customer to come back time and time again? Are they learning something new? Are they engaged? And we're selling a result or outcome. Whenever you sell a service, whenever you're selling golf instruction, when I was selling my college planning services, and developed 32,000 clients in the course of 15 years. A very successful business. But what I sold every one of those pieces of that platform basically. Okay? The experience, and I sold an outcome. The outcome for me was my clients to make sure that I got my students into the best four-year university or private school university. And I made sure my parents of that particular client or child had the best financial package with tax benefit. So they did not jeopardize their retirement. So we're selling a result or outcome. All of which are invisible. That's the key to a service. We're always selling something that's invisible. This is an outline of exactly what that is. 4 positioning requirements you must have as a teaching professional.